been reflecting a lot on being young and just thinking about things like, I was a kid in school that was always, trying to sell candy to the other kids. I remember taking every day I had like a goal. Like I was like, I'm going to come home every day from school with $20 and I put it in this little jar I had where I was like, I'm going to go sell these now and laters. I'm going to sell this gum. And I learned a lot. I mean, I just think about it now. I didn't think much of it then. It was something to do, make a few bucks or whatever. But I look back and I realized like, and maybe some of you have some experience like that, whether it be like doing a little lemonade stand or just finding a way to flip something. I mean, some people do that, whether it's with comic books or baseball cards or whatever. But I realized kind of looking back, there always was maybe something in a personality, like some of you may identify with that and say like, man, when I was young, there was a little bit of like, I didn't have any terminology for it, but I realized I was always trying to kind of make moves and sell something or whatever. And so, but along the way, I worked a whole bunch of different jobs. I mean, I like working. I actually like working hard and, learning. So I was really good in the beginning of things, right? So like when I get into something, I will obsess and I want to learn all about it. But once I kind of have it, I'm like, all right, either I want to grow that thing or go out. Like for example, once upon a time, I was a tile installer's assistant. So a guy that laid tile in houses at construction sites, I was basically his helper, carry heavy tile, help him make cuts, this and that. But every night I went home and I would like write down like all his tools. And I'd go to Home Depot on a day off and start pricing them. Like, okay, how much will it cost for me to own all his tools? And then how much do I have to save so that I can, and then what I did was, as soon as I could afford the tools and I felt like I'd had enough mastery of it, I bought all the tools and I quit. And now I was a competitor. I was like, all right, now I'm going to start laying tile, and started trying to get jobs. And I had made good friends with the guy he was getting jobs from. So I was able to do that. And always kind of had that kind of, there's something I'd say even in my personality, that's a bit of a, I don't know the right word for it, but ambitious and just kind of like driven, and really up for a challenge, especially if I was told I couldn't do something or whatever. And so someone referenced like being your own boss. What's that? Okay. I didn't know if I was a question or something. So anyway, along the way, what ended up happening was, I had a personal experience really with a lot of folks that were living on the streets, and that really caught my attention. I was really bothered by the fact that we had so many people in our neighborhood and our city that they didn't have the food they need, the clothes they need, they didn't have housing. And I remember making friends with a bunch of these people and started this organization known as The Well. So The Well is a nonprofit, and WellBuilt Bikes is a project of that nonprofit. So we have a bigger nonprofit that I kind of like accidentally built. Like I really just, I got a little community, we're going to do this. But along the way, I need to rent a building so we can open up this drop center so people could get showers or do laundry or come get groceries. And so I'd raised a little bit of money to do that. And then I was like, oh, I have to file with the state and incorporate so I can file for a tax exemption. And none of that was anything I'd ever looked to do or wanted to do, but you kind of like pick up the tools you need as you go. So we built this small organization, this small nonprofit. And we ran it for years. Never did anything with business. Never did it. I mean, that was my business. It was just like, I want to befriend and care for these people that are kind of on the streets and struggling, and make sure they got the clothes they need and a place to shower and a place to get some rest and community. We have a house that we run with some guys that were formerly homeless, and just kind of really trying to meet the needs of the community and use my kind of work ethic to try to do that as best I could, and learn and listen from the folks I was working with. That was a big part of it for me. Was I felt like there was a world of things for me to learn. So I was listening and just like, I need these relationships or whatever. So we end up opening kind of a daytime drop-in center for folks that are on the streets. This is kind of downtown Tampa area. We ran that for several years, and then we always were trying to tackle little initiatives. So like, a lot of people don't have work and they didn't have food. So I was like, you know what? We got some land out back. Let's go out back and we will work together to grow food. So to me, I was like, I know it's not a job, but I think it's really important that we work. Like, I actually believe that it's just like when I lay a tile floor, that feeling when I accomplish something, like whether it's a paying job or not, it's like, man, I got to work. And then these friends, I'd be like, I know you ain't got a job, but like, we can work in the garden and maybe we can raise some tomatoes that, you need food. So let's do that. And then we started all these little projects. We started raising fish, and then but one of our volunteers was a cyclist, someone that just rode a bike to, instead of driving a car. And some of the guys that lived on the streets rode bikes to get around. It's a great way to get around if you don't have a car or you don't want to ride the city bus or whatever. They don't have money for the city bus. And so we had some folks there. And one day she was helping someone with like fix a bike tire. And I just fell in love with that. I was like, man, that's so beautiful. And I went over to her. I was like, hey, keep doing that. Keep talking to the people with bikes. Keep working on that. And I started, hey, man, could you imagine if one day we had a bike shop and like people could come get their transportation needs met and this and that? She's like, I'm not here to work on bikes. I'm just trying to like, I just want to make friends and volunteer. I was like, great, make friends with people with bikes and volunteer with people with the bikes. And I like brought her a toolbox. I could be a little pushy. I imagine, you can imagine. So put a toolbox in her hand and I was like, hey, keep doing that. And then one day she came in and said, so sorry, I was trying to read the notes there as well. Thanks, Evan. So one day I came in and she told me, hey, I got 20 broken bikes donated from this other ministry that there's a place called God's Pedal Power. They fix bikes for people and they've got all these bikes they're not going to use. They're all broken. They all need work. But he said we can have them. I was like, yeah, we absolutely want them. So we put a shipping container like on the back of our property and we put those bikes in it. We put the tools in it. And a couple days a week, we would open it up and say, listen, if you need transportation, just go figure it out. You can go out there. There's tools like, if you need it, you can figure this out. You can build one of these bikes and make it work. Harder than I imagined it would be, but like people did it. They get out there, they fix a bike up, take a wheel off this one and this and that, and they would get them working. And actually 3 years at that drop-in center, we never sold anything. Actually, people come and try to buy a bike, and we would tell them no, because we just didn't do anything with money other than spend it. Like we'd spend it on the rent or whatever. We'd raise money and use it, but we were just doing our best to kind of make things work there. We wouldn't sell anything, which was foolish, by the way. We learned that in time, but we were just doing this with folks on the streets and folks that needed transportation. We saw over 1,000 bikes built in those 3 years. Well, what happened is, and some of you may know this from, I don't know where you guys are in town, but that was near downtown Tampa in a neighborhood called Tampa Heights, which was, for as long as we had been around, this was like a poor neighborhood, black and brown community, lots of folks living on the streets. It was a neighborhood where this is where people were at that we needed to work with. But like, a lot of people use the word gentrification, but like people started buying up the neighborhood. And if you go there now, it's like, that's where all the cool coffee shops are and pubs and whatever. And so they started pushing us out of the neighborhood, pushing our people out of the neighborhood, started policing it more and more, started coming after us with code enforcement. And so we put up quite a fight. I was at city council every week fighting with them, this and that. But ultimately I was like, look, I don't own my land. They leaned on the landlord. They ended up pushing us out of the neighborhood. And about a year before we were pushed out of the neighborhood, I knew like this is going to happen. And so there were two realities that kind of came together. So we are not going to be able to stay in this neighborhood. And then the other thing that happened was just an observation, but it's part of this story for me, is I'm watching. So what happened was, let's say this guy lives on the streets. Let's say Art's on the streets, and he comes in and Art builds a bike, and then Art's out riding the bike. And then Art's like, man, I love it here. I feel like family here. I got meaningful work here. I can get some food here. I can take a shower here. He doesn't have a lot else going on for him. And we're open 6 days a week. So he's just there all the time. But when he's there, he's not just taking advantage of stuff. He's like, man, I work with you guys. Let me jump in. But it wasn't like we had jobs, right? We didn't have much of a budget. So he's like, well, let me go out here and help these guys fix bikes, or let me help make lunch. Let me help run the showers. He started volunteering. And then Art started, we'd lend him our truck, and he started doing pickups for groceries to bring food back, and what happened, and it's not just this one guy. There's like 20 people doing this, right? And it started being almost running by people that were coming in from the community. And I started looking around going, man, this is beautiful, but it's also like not beautiful because I don't have enough money to pay all these people. They're all doing it as volunteers because they appreciate what we do, but like they still, like they're getting like the most basic of needs met here. Like we got a shower, we got some food, you got a bike, but like they don't have a house, they don't have a livelihood. They don't, it's like you need more, right? So I knew that we weren't going to be able to do that. So a few of you mentioned doing landscaping. So that seemed to me to be one of the easiest things. Turns out it's not the easiest thing. And I experienced that, but the first thing we did was I was like, man, I got to get some earned income. We got to get money for some of these guys. So I took some of my kind of the core of the team. I said, hey man, you wanna mow lawns? Because I've got some people I think will pay us to do that. We got together some equipment. We have a truck. We had a trailer. We packed it all in, and we just started mowing lawns. We started doing landscaping, and that was the first business that we started there, and that ran for a couple years actually. And it was okay, and it put money in their pocket. Like we work a long day, and they got paid, but like it wasn't gonna scale. And then even like I wasn't the one always going out with them, but I went out with them several times, and we'd be out in some nice neighborhood, and you'd see these landscape like professionals pull up with 15 guys pull out of the back of a wagon with the best equipment you've ever seen, and they're like up the trees, and they're just ninjas. And I'm with these old guys that can barely walk, and they probably drank too much last night. And I'm like, man, we are not going to win this game. Like we're not going to win this game. So I ended up, but I knew I was like, I think running a business is the right move. Like this nonprofit is cool. We can raise so much money, but we gotta make some money, right? So we started selling some of the produce. That wasn't like a big business. We were raising a bunch of produce in the garden and an aquaponic system, but we raised this thing called watercress, and we learned that was very valuable at some of these markets as like a garnish on their salads, and they would pay us pretty well. So I didn't let nobody touch that. I was like, we're going to sell that. It maybe helps sustain this a little bit. So we started doing that. That, okay, that was one of the realities. People need to earn money. And so what we're doing is beautiful, but we need to do better. And then at the same time, we're about to get run out of the neighborhood. I have no idea what we're going to do next, but we're spending a certain amount of money on rent, so I can use that money to kind of pivot or whatever comes next. So I sat down, and if you kind of look this up, or maybe in one of your one of you mentioned like being in a business class, you might hear of like a 80-20 analysis, but like this is a general rule. You can look at your own life, basically, like you can look at anything. It plays out everywhere. It's like an economic principle. But like if you look at, I don't know, I mean, the most obvious thing to me was in the work we were doing. You could look at your team and you go, 20% of the people here are doing 80% of the work. And that's just how it plays out in churches, it plays out in businesses, but it plays out in your efforts in your life. Like there's probably 20% of the things that you're doing that are actually working for you, and 80% of the things you're doing are not. And if you can figure out what those are, you know where to like double down, on that 20%. Well, when I looked at I was like, man, we're doing showers. It's beautiful. People need it. We're doing food. We're doing gardens. We're working in the gardens. So I was looking at everything we've done, and I was like, you know what that 20% is? And it was an accident. It wasn't like we're just really smart. I was like, man, these bikes, like the guy that got a bike was able to, one of them started a business. He started a lawn business, pulling a lawnmower on a trailer behind his bike. Another guy went and visited family in Jacksonville. Like they had like real autonomy and freedom. Like they were like one of the experiences of poverty is like, I ain't got no choices. I ain't got nothing I can do. And he got on a bike and he could pedal it over here, go accomplish this. One of them selling water bottles. And I was like, and all of them that got bikes they look better. They're like, they lost weight. They're active. They're fit. They can get around more. It's healthier. It's great work. Like we were working together as a team. It built real community. It was real meaningful. It was real healthy. It was like in every way, I'm like, man, this is hitting on everything we care about. And oh, by the way, I keep remembering all these people that kept coming by going, can I buy a bike? Can I buy a bike? Can I buy a bike? And we didn't sell them. Now, some of them sold bikes on the side, but we didn't officially sell bikes. And now we're getting run out of the neighborhood. And so I actually found a nonprofit bike shop in Birmingham, Alabama. And I just borrowed a car that didn't take much gas mileage. And I drove up there one weekend. I was like, tell me what you're doing here. And I was like, so I'm allowed to sell donated bikes. Are you sure that's okay? Or like, you have to sell them. Like you do your programs. So you help people get the transportation they need. So what we ended up doing was converting our program, that kind of what we called at the time, the recycle bin. WellBuilt was a joke. It's the Wells building bikes. Ha, get it? The Wells building bikes, the WellBuilt bikes or whatever. It was like a joke, but then we were like, actually, that's a good name. Let's use it. And so we experimented first. We went out and we went to other events. Like there was a community garden that was having a Earth Day gathering, and they had a bunch of people coming out. And so I called them. I said, can I I have a little tent, like a 10 by 10 tent you'll see at a farmer's market. I was like, can I set up a tent? I'm going to put some bikes out and I'm going to try to sell them. We made like $1,200 that day selling bikes. I was like, people will buy bikes. And then we had another community event at this church, was doing like a farmer's market. And so we rented space. We paid a little bit with the money we had made at the last one. We got in there. We made like 1,500 that day. Now, those were 2 good days because we were at big events. And then we were like, oh, we could do this on our own. We'll just set up on the side of the road. We didn't make much money doing that. We sell like a bike in a whole month. Like we didn't sell nothing that way. And we were out there in the sun all day. So we're like, okay. But we convinced ourselves people would buy bikes. These things are actually valuable. So they're valuable to sell, but they're also like the best tool we have available to us. Like a shower is good and we want to keep doing that. Food is good and we want to keep. So we still do all of that kind of outside of this operation. The well is still doing 10 grocery distributions a month because it's important for us to kind of meet those basic needs, but it's all an on-ramp because what we want to see is people empowered, people like building their own livelihood and sustainability. And so the bike shop became a way, so we converted to an earn a bike. So we're like, look, if you need transportation, I'm not going to give it to you, but you can earn it. So like your time is like money. So you come in and you volunteer and you're going to help us with one of these projects we're doing, and you invest 10 hours of time. That usually takes a couple days. You're going to get a bike, lights, lock, helmet, water bottle. We do a safety training. You'll be a member of our co-op. So you can come work on your bike whenever you need to keep that thing moving. And we started doing that. And then we started taking the bikes we get in. We'll take the best of them, the cream of the crop. We don't do the Earn a Bike program with them. You get like a nice Trek road bike that's worth $600. Nobody needs that to go get a job. So we would take it, we would clean it up, we refurbish it. We have a really good certified mechanic, goes over everything. And then, which we didn't at the time, that was part of the story. We actually sent him to school, like, hey, get an education in this. You have a particular gift in this. You're kind of minded for this. And so he's came back from school. He's fantastic at it, gets better every day, starts refurbishing them. And then those go on the floor in this retail space we got in University Mall, which is the only reason we ended up in a mall was I started looking around for property and it's too expensive. We can't afford anything. And I can't get in anywhere. And so I'm like, well, maybe if I get a storage barn, I could sell out of there, use Craigslist or this or that. But what happened was someone else, another nonprofit that rented space in the mall called me and they're like, listen, the mall is half empty and they just want people to come here and they are open to negotiate. So I was like, all right, let's see. Came out here and met with the management company that runs it. And they gave us, I mean, I'm not even allowed to like talk about the price they let us in at because they don't want nobody knowing, but we got in here for nothing. Like I couldn't have rented a storage space for what we got in here for. So we opened up a storefront. And now we've been here. We're coming up on 3 years. We were actually built out the space. I'm in it now. It was, we're open 6 days a week here. This was about 3 years ago. It was on Halloween night, which is for other reasons and other stories, a really meaningful night to me. We weren't ready to open yet, but the mall did this thing for kids in the neighborhood. They did trick-or-treating. So we're like, hey, there's kids here. Let's just open the doors. We'll hand out candy and let people see the space. Who knows? Maybe someone wants to get a bike. And then we just stayed open ever since. So every Halloween now is an anniversary. So this next Halloween that we're coming up on will be our third year anniversary. And anyway, and so there's a lot of like learning and adapting throughout that whole process. But I didn't know bicycles. I didn't know retail. I didn't know running a business. I didn't know any of these things, but I had this goal in front of me. Like there's a problem I'm working on. There's this thing I'm trying to figure out. And when I looked back to that 80-20 analysis, I looked at everything we've done and I was like, man, the bicycles are the best thing we have in our hand and we can get the furthest on them. So we just decided that was going to be, no pun intended, but the vehicle that we were going to use. Like this isn't just a way for Freddie to get from point A to point B, but it's a way for all of us to transform our circumstances in our community or whatever. And so that's what we've been working on and that's what we're endeavoring to do. But I should say, by the way, that once I got a taste of it, like just like, man, I should have wrote your names next to your stories. But is it Landon that was selling golf carts? But like, as soon as I got a taste of it, I was all in. I was like, it's like, I love this. This is fun. Like back to that, like when I was a kid, I was into this kind of thing. It was like reminded me of something. I was like, oh, there is some kind of temperamental aspect where I'm like, the hustle, like the problem solving, the constant learning. Like, I don't know how that works. Let's figure it out. I don't know how that works. Let's figure it out. And actually, I think that temperament overlaps with a lot of people that end up, like when I look at our community or people that are in trouble or people that are struggling with the standard way, a job in front of them or this or that. And maybe some of you is like, I don't want to, it has to do with a bit of a chip on my shoulder. It has to do with, one of you said like be my own boss or regulate something is like there's something in me that wants this kind of autonomy. Hold on, if you would just stay on this side of the shirts right there. What's that? Okay, okay. Sorry guys, it's got people in the store here, but you know, it was like that you were saying you want to regulate something or do something. It's like I want that kind of autonomy and kind of self determination and control. And it's like I actually think there's like a personality type that ends up in those situations. And a lot of us, man, it's like it wasn't that I'm just like bad at school or I'm bad at this or that. It's like I'm actually built for something different. And when you find that thing, whether you know it's flipping golf carts, I love that, man. I love hearing that you're doing that, and I can't wait to kind of hear from you guys maybe what you want from me in a way, but I'm all yours. So that's a bit of my own story, and really there's, without explicitly stating them, there's lessons throughout that. But really, I think the kind of like the, let's say even someone said like a successful entrepreneur, I'm like, I don't know what that even means necessarily, other than there is no other way for me. It's like that's the makeup. So you go, man, my lawn business didn't work. It's like you dust, get up. It's like watching a fighter keep getting up. You get up. You know, there's all these stories. Like what is it? The cleaner 409. It's like that. It's called 409 because 408 of them didn't work. You know, and you hear these stories of entrepreneurs like, yeah, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I just learned 1,000 things that don't work. And I iterated on them and I kept doing that. And I actually, to me, that's like the magic sauce in all of this. It isn't that I'm good at golf carts, right? If you can do that in 2 weeks there, you can do it with bikes. You can do it with just about anything. And then I would say like the trick then is to find the most legal way to do it, because a lot of us are using these gifts in ways that are going to end our butts in jail, even though we're successful at the thing we're trying to do. It's like I have a skill set, but when I apply it over here and that's not allowed, and then I end up going to jail or something like that, it's like, but a lot of us end up, it's like, yeah, you end up there because it was the wrong product, but you find the right thing or the right venture or the right thing to give yourself to. It wakes that same skill set up, and those same skills that you might have used in another place are applicable. And it turns out you are good at business. It turns out you are good at a hustle. It turns out like we even use the same language for it. It's like it's there, and it's probably in some of you. So I'm gonna shut up, and maybe you guys can guide me a little bit. So just kind of extract maybe whatever questions you might have, or even in your own situations. I know some of you are really trying to work on something now. If I can speak directly to something you're struggling with or whatever, but yeah, why don't you guys kind of like chime in? Did anything in that stand out? Do you have any immediate questions? Is there anything that you want from me? What is the most challenging aspects of WellBuilt Bike Shop during the initial stages, particularly when the shop opened? Right. Well, I tell you what, we opened the doors on Halloween, like I said, and then you know, I told you we made money those first few pop-up shops, and then we struggled the rest of them. But when we opened up here, it was like those pop-up shops every day. We would come in, we would be here the entire day, and at the end of the day, we would close the register and we made zero. At the end of the day, we would close the register and we made zero. And that was like, and then like we'd make like, oh, we made like $10. We made like $20 this day or whatever. And it was really, really hard and discouraging. And so one of the initial stage challenges is like believing, you know, having hope beyond the immediate, what's right in front of you. And it is related. I mean, if any of you, if I'll tell you this, and on the temperament side, if you're somebody that someone says you can't do that, and you're like, we'll see. Like that is a good sign, right? Because that really is something that was in us in that way. And so that was some initial challenges. And then like, we didn't know anything. Like we didn't know how to run the point of sale. I had to Google absolutely everything. There was nothing we knew how to do. Like one of you referenced, like I didn't have my business plan together and now I'm going to college trying to figure that out or whatever, write a plan. And what's that? Oh, well, anyway, we had to learn all of it and do it on the fly. So by the way, whoever that was that said like, I just started too fast and whatever, that is a lesson, and it is good to go in with a plan, especially like, all right, here's what I plan on doing. Here's what I think it's going to cost. Just like I did when I was at tile guy's helper. It's like I had to build out, like I need to know I have enough money to buy the tools I'm going to need to do his job so I don't have to work for him anymore. Like that's a necessity, and that's part of having a plan. But at the same time, I'm not someone who's going to tell you like, man, you got to go spend a year on this plan or whatever. Like I'm a little more interested in testing yourself. Like don't get a table at a flea market and see if anyone will buy anything from you. Like find out if you're any good at that. And if you can sell anything, right, and you have that kind of salesmanship, then you can figure out what your niche is, what the thing is you'd be good at. One of you asked, how has COVID treated our business? Now, interesting. So the entire, the short answer is it's been fantastic for us, actually. It's been hard because of all the adaptations and things we've had to do, but because nobody wants to ride the city bus, because everyone's home with their kids, because all of the gyms closed, every one of those is a reason someone wants to get on a bike. Bikes right now, like literally, and Carlo, I'm a supplier for bikes, but Carlo called the other day, like, man, we need a bike. I'm like, bro, like we can't get our hands on bikes. Like the bikes are like, you can't go to Walmart and get a bike. You can go to a bike shop and get a bike. Like bikes are so hard to find right now. And so, but our store is busy. Our service department is slammed. Everyone dug out their old bike and said, can you make it work again? And then building bikes for the floor. Right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We only have like 6 bikes available on the floor even, which is, we've shrunk the store. Like we turned it all into service department. The store's a third of the size that it was because our inventory is just so shrunk down. A lot of the new parts we're trying to use when we upgrade bikes, we try to get shifters and new cables, new chains, new seats, all these things that we buy to put on these bikes. You can't get them anymore. Like the real impact may be coming because we go to place an order and nothing exists. You can't get bike pumps, you can't get car racks, you can't get pedals, you can't get tubes, tires. And so our fear is, what if it all runs out? Like, what if manufacturing doesn't pick back up and catch up? Which, because the entire globe, this is happening. So every bike shop on the planet is hitting refresh on the orders. We did that yesterday. We're like, we need a certain thing, and we're hitting refresh. And as soon as that number is like, we have it in stock, the stores buy it all and it's gone. I mean, you got to be on it. So that's been a serious challenge there. But again, like all the challenges, I mean, it's been fun. It's been really exciting. And I am trying to think ahead, like, well, what if that does dry up? Can you anticipate? Like, what kind of pivots, what kind of moves will you make? What kind of other things can you be doing? Like, and, there's ideas that we have, but none of it's a slam dunk. None of it's for sure. And, oh, by the way, we're still really busy doing today, right? Trying to operate what we're doing. And it's going really well. You guys can use your mics or the chat here if you want to kind of ask anything else, kind of lead the way a little bit.
So, John, one of the things that I had opened up with was saying that you were a successful entrepreneur, and part of that, when I consider somebody being successful, is just somebody who has run into different obstacles and different things like that, but never stopped. And one of the things there's 3 things I always say on most of the presentations that we have with guest speakers. When it comes to entrepreneurship, finding jobs, just overall in life, it's don't quit, don't stop, and don't give up. So part of that was me saying that you were successful was because you've been in business for 3 years, and you may be successful now as far as some people may see, oh, well, financially he may be doing well, the shop may look good, but sometimes people don't understand what it took to get to that point. So if you could just speak on who has helped you along the way when it comes to your business? I know we all have used Google and stuff like that, but were there any mentors where, I know you said there was a bike shop in Alabama that you went and you were just able to, spend some time with them. So were there any mentors, or was majority of you developing your business based off of finding someone who was already doing what you were doing or had a similar model, and you just went and shadowed them, got the information, and came back and just made your plan better? How did that work out for you?
Bro, that's such a good question. Thank you for asking that. Yeah, because I do think there's this weird balance between, I would say, just entrepreneurship in general. Like, you want to build something, it's like you got to have enough of a chip on your shoulder to not believe all the people that are going to be like, you're going to fail, get a real job, this ain't making nothing. Like, even in your own head, right? You got to be resilient enough get around or under or over any obstacle that comes up, and have like this attitude of, like you said, never give up, never stop, never quit, this tenacity. But then at the same time, the humility to know I don't know what I'm doing. I know I won't quit, but I also know I don't have all the answers. And actually, that's a really healthy thing to have a large dose of, right? So Google's great, but you need people that you can interact with and ask questions to. So that's a great example. I went to Birmingham and said, "How did you do it?" He's like, "Here's what my first 3 years look like. Here's what, we write grants for programs. Here's how our Earn a Bike works." And like we tweaked it, we changed some things to make it our own. But honestly, a lot of it we just copied it. We're just like, "Man, that'll work. That seems great. There's a technology there." And then I did a couple things. So there's a term you'll hear thrown around, which is social entrepreneurship or social enterprise, which we are under that umbrella, which means we our business is not, it's actually all under a nonprofit umbrella. We are building a business, and I want to grow it big and successful in the optics sense. Like we're like a brand and people know it and come to it or whatever, like be a success in that way. Like people typically use that. But at the same time, it's not so anyone can get wealthy. No one's getting wealthy here. We barely keep up, but it's like to continue to make the impact we were aiming to make when we were running a drop-in center. It's like to empower people, to see people succeed. And so with that measure, so by the way, why I bring that social entrepreneurship framework up is that became a bit of a hot, like a trend. You know what I mean? Like it's cool. It became cool. Like, so it's like it's another way for nonprofits or something. And so there's these things that popped up that are like little pitch competitions, like pitch your idea and go to this thing and that thing. So I went to a bunch of these different things, and I actually got hooked up with a really cool one that Red Bull put on, the drink company. They ran a big, like a year, the 18-month accelerator course, but they put us through a 10-day intensive where they gave us like access to all these like brilliant people, just took these lessons like a fast school. It was like around the clock. They just kept giving us Red Bull. Like, we're just going to keep going. There's 10 intense days. You come back from that. And then I was given, each of us got a coach. And so my coach, this guy, Bruckner Chase, he's an athlete. He's an endurance athlete with them, but he had worked for Performance Bikes in his history, and he had been the construction manager over 50 new bike shops. And so I was like, oh, he comes from the industry. He knows these things. He knows so much we don't know. So I was on the phone with him constantly. He flew down here several times to talk with us. And even this morning before this call, I'm still in touch with them. And the program's over. It's not like they're paid to talk to us anymore or whatever. But like his wife is like, he's kind of like, I've gotten closer now to his wife because we've moved into the like grant writing field, which is more of her stuff. And I've been working on, I was on the phone with her before I jumped on with you guys. And so, and like I could rattle off a list, but like that was an example. But I got my foot in every door, and I would talk to people about what we're doing and ask like yesterday or 2 days ago, like we have some hard decisions to make right now, in kind of in this like financial way. And so there's a guy that I know that's a very wealthy businessman. I mean, he owns lots and lots of different businesses. So he's not in them running them as an operator. He's more at the investor level now. And the dude is very wealthy, very successful. And he's not a source of money for us, but what he is for me is he's someone that'll take my call. And I know that 10 minutes from him is probably worth more than a check that anyone else could write. I said, bro, this is something I'm trying to figure out. Can you help me make a decision? What would you do in this? I have a contract in front of me. What do I need to look for? He's like, look for these two things. If you see them, don't do it. If you don't see them, move forward. And I was like, cool. And by the way, I didn't see those. I had read it. I didn't see those. Didn't know to look for those. Got off the call and I found them. Right. And it was like, oh my God, I'm so glad. He's like, yeah, if you see these, like, call me back, like, or don't do it, or let's talk more. Like, there's more to think of. There's hidden costs that you're not seeing. And man, I'm telling you what, like every step of the way, I'm looking to coaches, people that have gone before me. And here's like, honestly, listen, you don't need to come up with anything like how you fix a bike. I mean, there's people that can tell you. There's technology out there. There's people that have gone down this before. And whether it's houses or golf carts or bikes or whatever, there are some things that are just common wisdom. And and yeah, so I hope that's helpful of an answer. And I'm so like have the audacity to believe in yourself and go, I'm not going to quit, come hell or high water, I'm going to make this thing work. And then the humility to go, man, I don't know anything. I'm a novice at every step of the way. I got to call and ask questions. I got to like lean on the people that have gone before me. And by the way, I need to add to this one more thing. One of the most important coaches for us in our line of work, for me in particular, as a human being, even have been the people on the streets, the poorest of my friends that I listen to. Like they have a perspective on the city and the economy and the needs in the community. Like it'd be one thing to be like, I think people need this. I think people need this. But like when they're like, this is what we want, this is what we're trying to aim at. This is what we're trying to do. Um, that to me, actually, I would say is the primary mentor, at least in my field, and the thing that I'm trying to do. My primary goal is really on behalf of kind of those in need, the poor, people might say the homeless, whatever. But to me, is like my community, friends of mine, people we deeply care about and love and value. And that's the objective. And so their voices are like the number one mentor in some sense. And then, but then in the business field, and a lot of them ain't run businesses. So when I need to know how to run a P&L, I don't ask the dude on the street. You know what I'm saying? So what do we need? But then on the technology side, you need to know how to fix a bike. You ask a bike technician. When you're trying to fix your golf cart, you probably go to someone that knows about golf carts, right? And so that's what, you try to find someone with mastery in a thing, and then just be grateful. Be grateful. Even if they tell you something you don't want to hear, is like, man, if they're giving you time and attention, you can always go back and change it. We didn't do everything we were told along the way. And there's some things we were told to do that I'm really glad we didn't do. And sometimes you just, you gotta pick what those things are, but having the humility to listen to others and to let people mentor you and lead you. And it's very interesting because in the end of the day, the decision's on you. So it's like, yeah, there's no boss telling you what to do, but I have a million people that I'm going to, not technically a million, but a lot of people I'm going to, they're saying, here's what you should do. And sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. So then I got to come back and make that decision, and then recognize, like, you make the wrong decision, that's on you. You can't blame them. You can't blame them. It's they give you as a gift what they have to offer, their own advice, and you got to act on it and decide if it's right, if it's good. I think that was a good question. Hopefully it was an okay response to that. Yeah. What else
Um,
y'all got?
so as we look at COVID and all the different things that go into that, what would you say to any of our youth, any of our young people or young adults who are thinking about business and they're just trying to think about just trying to make quick money, or the case may be? What would you say is one of the most important things to be mindful of, especially when you get hit with something that has really impacted the economy the way it has over the last 4 months? What would you say are some things that you knew going into this, and some things that you've learned because of a pandemic or because of different things, social distancing? So now that you're not able to have a store at 100% capacity, you can only have it at 25 or 50%. So that means you're only going to be able to get 25 or 50% of your normal income. So what would you say is something to be mindful of during this time? And have you had to become very creative? And have you gone more to technology? Have you gone to more online? What are some different things that you have done to adapt to the change that you've had to partake in?
Yeah. Yeah, there's great questions. There's a lot there. I will start by just saying, like, in a lot of ways, we were lucky that nobody could have foreseen that bike shops would win the day. And like, I have a friend that runs a business that helps people set up networks, like just computer geek kind of stuff, right? And he's never done more business ever in his life because everybody all of a sudden had to work from their home, and all of these tech needs were needed to set up their home offices. And then, like, honestly, right now, if you were already in the game of helping build home offices, you'd be cleaning up right now. So there was a lot of people that just won the lottery of this, right? But then there's some really good businesses, people that we really love, that were doing everything right, that had to close the doors. Maybe they ran a restaurant. And by the way, restaurants, they got rough margins, man. They gotta pack the place out. Food goes to waste. If they gotta buy food, anticipating who's coming. It's a very hard game to be in. You gotta have a lot of expensive equipment, and they die all the time. And so, by the way, if you're eating at restaurants, like, keep doing that. You know, I mean, like, it's really impressive, especially the local businesses that have been able to survive this. But then you got something like I mean, the landscape has shifted completely now. There's something in my personality that really likes this. So I came alive. Like, oh, it's like shit. It's like constant decision making and things are moving. That isn't ever, it's a bit of a temperamental advantage, right? Like, I enjoy that. It's exciting, but like, who saw that, like, sweet tomatoes, this buffet line, it's all soup plantations, and they're all over the country. They don't exist anymore. The buffet line probably won't exist anymore. Like, there's so many things, like the rug got taken out. So a couple things, like, even forget a business, like your own life. You you know, 12-step meetings have this like prayer they do where they're like, God help me, give me the serenity to accept the things I can't change. Right? There's a landscape shift. That is out. A storm comes and blows your house away. That's outside your control, right? And so there's like, give me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, and the courage to change the things I can. Like, I got to take risks. I got to make moves, and like, there's things that I can do personally. Like, right? Like, I can control my own mindset. I can control my own behavior, and those are things we can control. And then, you know, part of the end of that prayer is in the wisdom to know the difference. It's not always crystal clear. We act like we can change something we have no control over. And then we act like we have no control over things we have every bit of control over, which is often our behavior, our mouths. Like, you have control over those things. So I'm like, start at home, right? And you got to plan for rainy days, right? So, you know, if you make $10, like today, maybe hold on to a couple bucks, live on 8. So you got two set aside, you know, and you kind of like build something up, especially if you have a plan or a goal. You're going to need something down the road, right? You want to, and I'll tell you, like, as a young business, we were not necessarily in some help. Like, we're making it and using it, right? Like, we're spending what we have. We're spending what we have. And it's not like we were sitting on savings or whatever, but that would have helped tremendously, because as the demand came up, there was things we knew, but like, you gotta, like, it's not like we could just afford a bunch more staff, or it's not like we could just afford, you know, a bunch more materials or whatever. Like, we have to stay within a certain budget. So that's a lesson learned in that. The move to technology, I mean, just look at what's happening right now. Most of you have probably bought something online you never bought online before, right? You like, I mean, I literally just ordered a pair of shoes. I've never done that before. Like, I go get shoes at a store, right? But I was like, I'm going to order them on. Like, it changed the landscape a lot. And so online's gotten really important. There's a lot of opportunity right now in some of those, in that kind of changing economy. When you mentioned you were looking into drop shipping, I love it. I love it. You know what I mean? You can buy a product here. If you get into if you do marketing well, I know for sure, like, I've bought things that I know that if I was going to buy 100 of them, I can get them for 30% of the price, right? But I'm buying one of them, and the dude advertised it well, and he used some algorithm to give it to me on social media, because I was looking for a new hat, right? And then I saw this cool new hat, whatever, and it was like, and I know that it's worth a fraction of what I paid for it, but like, that's how that works. And like, drop shipping is great. It's, you know, you lose a little bit on letting someone else control the inventory, but that's a great path forward. There's a lot of opportunity kind of in the online space. And as you look at like I mean, the stock market tanked after COVID, but Zoom shot through the roof. If you own stock in Zoom, you won the day. Because who knew every meeting in the world was going to be on Zoom? I guess we're on WebEx. I didn't never even heard of WebEx. Frankly, I don't think they won the day, but maybe they're doing really well right now too, you know? And like that. So there's things you couldn't have anticipated, but some of the things is like anticipating the unexpected, right? This is why you get things like insurance, right? It's like you pay today because you may have a rainy day tomorrow. This is why you have savings, right? There is a bit of that. Try to forecast what you can. Try to prepare for things that you can't foresee. And then also, I would say one of the biggest advantages we've had as like a small business is we're nimble. So we're not institutionalized. It's not like this is the way we've always done it, because that didn't work for people. It's like, this is the way we've always done it. Nobody was able to do that anymore. And you either died or you adapted. And for those that are nimble and able to adapt and able to make decisions on the fly and are comfortable, everything doesn't have to go to a huge committee. Like you can like kind of adapt as needed. Doesn't mean every bob and weave you take is the right one. Sometimes you take it on the chin, but realizing like you gotta, keep pressing forward, and ultimately you're just doing your best. You're trying to figure something out. It's all an experiment and a test. And yeah, it is. Like even that dude I was telling you I was on the phone with, like I was talking to the other day, he reminds me, because sometimes it feels like such a small thing that we've done in the field of success or something. But he's like, bro, like small business is hard. It's hard. And he's like, most of them fail. And the fact that you're open in a retail space, brick and mortar space, like 3 years after you started, like even if it's really struggling, which it's going well, but like we have a long way to go. Like we're still not sustainable. Like we need way more staff. We need so much more help that we can't afford. But it's good to be reminded of that. Like we've come a long way. And if when you feel like I can't go over that hill, like literally anything you're trying to deal with today that you're looking at, you're like, I can't figure this out. I can't do this or whatever. Think back 10 years. I mean, back in the day, you didn't know how to walk. You didn't know how to speak the language. You didn't know how to read. Like you've done so many things you didn't think you were going to be able to do. And it's helpful to look back. Like remember, we built the drop-in center. We built the aquaponics system. We grew all that food. We started that lawn business. We succeeded in this. And when you kind of like look back at how far you've come, gives you a little bit more gas to press forward a little bit.
It's a non-for-profit business or for-profit?
Yeah, that's a good, so it is the Well is a 501c3 not-for-profit.
Okay.
And then what I did was I set up 3 LLCs that are owned by the nonprofit. The bike shop is one of them. The lawn crew was one of them. And then the other one is where I just put all of the charitable service stuff. So operationally, like WellBuilt Bikes is an entity that has its own bank account, its own payroll, its own staff, its own insurance. It's everything just like it's it's treated as a for-profit business. Nobody needs to know that we're that. But the owner is a nonprofit. And the beauty of that is when you go to the IRS, like it's all just a nonprofit. So as far as the IRS is concerned, this is just a program of the nonprofit. And any proceeds from this go back into our cause, which was our intent to begin with. Like if I make $1 million, I am never going to take $1 million because all of my friends live on the streets. I couldn't sleep at night trying to buy a Bentley. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to see my people well, fed, housed, whatever. And so I wanted to commit from the beginning, like whatever success we see, we will all see. And that the nonprofit serves as like the common purse then. Like nobody's going to make bank on this, but that's by design. Somebody could make bank on this business if they bought it from us, right? Like, and it wasn't under the umbrella of a nonprofit anymore. Like we could at some point decide like, man, we'll sell this business to someone that's in the bike game and we're going to get into do the well-built housing thing next, or we're going to do the, whatever. It's like that, that isn't necessarily the goal or the plan. It's not there is no exit in mind for us, but that is we set it up that way so it has the autonomy of its own entity, but at the same time it has the benefit of the nonprofit covering and the accountability of the nonprofit covering, which is important to me because honestly, it's hard if you get a bunch of money in your pocket to do what's right, and I don't want to just act like I got enough conviction to see it through if we make a ton of money. I want the accountability in place so that I don't get tempted by a come up and bounce. I want to see it through. I want to do what I set out to do to begin with.
Absolutely.
Give you a quick tour of the shop. I could try to do that. So this is going to be tough on my little laptop here. So I'll start out here. So here you can kind of see a little bit here. This is the shop, and you can see these shelves that are behind me here. The shop goes way back, but we put these gray shelves in to kind of shrink the store down. I'm going to walk out here into the mall so you can kind of see, there's the storefront. Funny, we built this all out ourselves, and I had a buddy that knew how to cut that metal, so we just had him cut that, and I just threw some LEDs behind that sign, which turned out really good, but this is all homemade, man. We had a little window display here. What's crazy is another bike shop closed down, and we went to the auction and we were able to get all these bike shop things like bike stands and stuff that we weren't able to get. So, their misfortune worked out for us. We've got this behind me is an old t-shirt rack that we hang our tires on. So you can see there we got a selection of tires. Hold on. We've got, this is like this is where I've been sitting. It's a little gathering space we have right here. So because we do the Earn a Bike classes, we do little classes here. We want to be a community space. So we dedicated some space to like a little family room. There's some inventory over here. You see we got some pedals, this and that. And then this is stuff, you just buy to resell. You mark it up and resell it. It's all the new products at about a 50% margin. So you buy something for $10, it's priced at 20. Most of those prices are set by the companies already, so they're the same at every store. Those kind of things. Again, like we found this rack out by a dumpster, and we repurposed it. We got our helmets up on it here. All of these, by the way, I'm proud of these here. These are all these chairs we have in the family room here are made out of pallets that we had. And so let's see what else. Oh, well, let me take you back here real quick. So then the rest is kind of like where the magic happens. Normally this would be the front, like where people come to the register, but we're operating everything out. Like we're not having people back in the store this far right now, just, again, because of the COVID thing and the capacity issue. But then back in this side, this is Chris behind me here. He's kind of the manager of our service department. He's working on a bike here. You can see these different workstations here, stands that the bikes can go on. There's some frames on the wall here, things that are kind of in the works. There's just a bunch of shelves, different spots around here with lots of little pieces of the puzzle that you need. We got a rack here. These are all like work orders, so customer bikes that are in. There's a whole bunch of stuff here lined up. So you got someone brings their bike in and says, "Can you guys work on that?" or whatever. And then in the back, there's a little back room back here that we line up. So we have a little bit of this is like used tubes that are still good. We've got a little bit of back stock. Most of the stuff's out on the floor. We always have, because of the game we're in, we always have a giant pile of just garbage, like tires that are destroyed or dry rotted or whatever. This is a rack that when someone donates a bike and it's broken or bent or no good, we'll strip it. So you'll see like these crates, they'll say like derailleurs, front derailleurs, hangers, reflectors. So there's things that go on bicycles. These are shifters. So we just put them in crates. We built this other rack here. It's just seat posts. You wouldn't imagine the number of sizes. So we'll say these are 26s, 25s millimeters. And so we'll rank all those in. So we just kind of organize it and clean it up as much as we can, so that when we're fixing your bike and we realize you need that, maybe we don't have a new one, but we can go, source a used one or an old one. A lot of what we're doing, because we're in kind of refurb game, is like repurposing, taking things that would otherwise get wasted, bikes that are going to landfills or being abandoned at the colleges or whatever, stripping them down and then reusing those parts, as best we can. And then outside of the store on the other side of the mall, I can't take you down there, and you wouldn't see because there's no electricity in there. We got to use a flashlight. We have a huge area. We got really lucky. The mall had this, when they were trying to get me to sign on this place, and I was like, I want it. Perfect. But I need a big storage unit because I'll never be able to store all of our bikes here. And the guy that was running the place, like, actually, there's a huge section of the mall that has no electricity. It's basically condemned. Like, we can't rent it. There's no storefront to it. It's just hidden behind this, it's just a hidden space that nobody uses, but there's a door to it. And they threw it in for like an extra $50, which is like 7,000 square feet. But it was like, they added $50 to our bill. And I was like, sold, we'll sign right now before you change your mind. Now we're going to lose that space because they're going to renovate the mall like that. We knew that was very vulnerable. Like, we're not paying anywhere near it. But he's like, I just want you to sign on this space and get a contract. And nobody's using that anyway, so $50 is better than no money. And so he threw it in, and we got that. So yeah, we got, and that's again, there's a lot of Recognizing opportunities. Like I wasn't trying to be in the mall, that kind of stuff. Like you just kind of make it work. You know, there's a lot of good enough. There's a lot of good enough. That sign is good enough. That shelf is good enough. The chair made out of pallet is good enough. And then in time, I'm like, actually, it's better than good enough. I'm super proud of it. I'm actually glad because it was scrappy because we built it that way. Like I want that more than I would want something expensive and nice. But anyway, that good enough tour. Were you guys able to see kind of?
Absolutely, that was definitely a great tour.
Awesome.
So yeah, thank you for that.
Sweet.
Definitely appreciate you, John.
Yep.
I just wanted to open up to you both. We're about to wrap up this session with Mr. John Dengler. Just keep in mind too that I've been recording this entire event, so I'll be able to share with all the participants, also all the other youth that were unable to make it for this activity and event.
Good.
So any last thoughts, questions before we wrap up this session, Mr. John? Awesome.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, hold on real quick, because I'm going to push on if you're still there, man. I want to hear from you, bro. So, like, you started something. It sounds like it's going really well. And if you don't have a question for me, then maybe I have some for you. But like, I want to prompt you, like, ask me something or tell me more. Because it sounds like you're in the game. Out of everyone that said, like, I'm here doing this, I'm like, man, you are in the game. And you stand out, man, because of that, honestly. And so just talk to me a little bit. How was this for you? Yeah, what questions you might have? Go ahead.
So basically, this kind of it was a weird way that I was decided to go into this general area. I had a dream actually that I was doing golf carts, and I just I've always my whole life I've been finding what will make me that income that I want. I don't want to work at a restaurant. I don't want to work at anything like that. I want to do my own thing. And I had this dream. I'm like, okay, well, we'll see what's going on here. I looked it up. I mean, I saw the ban was there, so there was no negative thoughts there. I saw there was a lot of carts for sale. There's a lot of for lowered in the market. So I figured, okay, what if I bought some golf carts? Just two at a time. Just to see how it is. So I bought two of them. I think I paid $2,500 a piece for these 2016 club carts. I said, okay, they're stock. I see they're going for $5,000. I'm gonna put a lift kit, some wheels, and maybe some underglow LED strips, and just see what's like. Test the market out. Put about 600 in each of them, so a total that's about 3,100, and I sold both of them within 3 days for about 44, 45, I believe. So it's like, okay, so I contacted some of my people that I know, just possible investors, just people I know that are already successful that maybe they could help me out, and I was able to gain about $10,000 in like they invested $10,000 in me. So I bought about 6 cards, put a bunch of money into them, like into each of them, about 400 or 500 in each of them, and I sold all of them in a week, and I told it's about 800, 900 per cart in a week, so that was pretty good. So right now I have about 10 or 11 carts right now, and yeah, it's pretty interesting because I'm still learning along the way. It's only been about a couple of weeks, and there's a lot of obstacles I have to face. There's a lot of stuff I have to get, and but I'm not quitting. I see it's a successful market, even with the coronavirus. There's still high demand, which is crazy. So,
are you in Ruskin? Where are you at?
I'm in Gulfport.
Gulfport. There's a lot of golf carts there, huh?
Oh yeah, see, there's no golf cart shops here in Gulfport, so I'm actually gonna, after I sell these carts, I'm gonna open up my own golf cart shop because it's a Gulfport, so I feel like it's necessary. And the closest one to me is about 45 minutes away or 30 minutes away, something around those lines. And there's a lot of demand for golf carts here because it's a family city. There's a lot of, you don't drive really because it's like a town. It's a miniature but huge town.
So people get around on golf carts. That's why I was asking about Ruskin, because city center is just ridiculous. There's just traffic jam full of golf carts.
Yeah, that's how it is here. People don't really drive too many cars; they drive golf carts. So
that's awesome,
yeah,
bro. So can I ask you a couple questions real quick? So
yes.
So okay. So you dropped about a little over $6,000. It sounds like, to kind of test your idea here.
Yeah, it was pretty.
where, how'd you have $6,000?
So I had $0 when I came out, and like I said, I reached some people, some family members, and most of the people that I knew, because I met a few guys at the beach that were already entrepreneurs. They did real estate and drop shipping from China and Amazon FBA. So I contacted them and I was like, hey, listen, if you give me the a couple thousand just to get these golf carts and test my idea out, if they go well, I will give you 50% of the profit. And so that's how it worked. They gave me 50% of the profit, and or I gave them 50% of the profit. Then they initially gave me 10 grand to go bigger, and then after all these are sold, the ones I have now, they're gonna give me about $25,000-$30,000. I'm gonna order about 20 of them. So yeah.
So you're at a 50-50 profit share basically on what you're making with those?
Yeah, for now until I reach my own,
That's
money.
right, for now. So sit on your 50%, man, until you do not need their money. Everyone's all like, get investors, but they own half of everything that you're putting all the work in on. So like, I would just be like, yo, keep that money.
Yeah.
Keep it. Spend as little of it. Like, dude, live on nothing. Eat nothing. Rely on your friends. Like, just keep it all.
Yeah, that's my whole concept.
Because the thing is, like, okay, now they give you 25, they give you 30, and that's good. That's big money. Like, because the fact that you were able to spend $6,000, I mean, frankly, like, very few of us are in a position to have to do that. And we'd have to start with, like, look, actually, what I need to do is I need to get this $10 thing from Goodwill and sell it on eBay for 25. Okay, now I got 25. I'm gonna go get two $10 things, and now I got 50, and like work at it that way. So like for someone that isn't in your position that's listening, maybe they go back and like, look, go to Goodwill and do the same thing. Like put a lift kit on a Hot Wheel. You know what I'm saying? Like just like mimic it. Like it's like upgrade it and flip it, but the technology is the same. But then again, man, as fast as you are able to, one, get other people working with you or for you, finding what you don't know. Like, let's say I'm really good at the mechanics of this thing, but maybe I'm not like that. And maybe you're good at all of it. That some of us are just cut right. But like you go, man, I'm not like the bookkeeper guy. It's like find a partner or a staff or someone that can work with you for that. It would be better to pay someone to do the thing that you're not as good at than to give those other people. That's great, dude, that you're not a lot of people are going to get to leverage the trust, but like, we applaud those that get investment and gave you a leg up and some experience or whatever. But anyway, real quick, because I know we don't have a lot of time. I know Carla was already trying to wrap up before I got you talking, but like I could tell right now, like I want to talk to you again. So Carlo's got my info. If you're game to hit me up, dude, like I would love to just be a vet. Like we talked about with Evan earlier, like, maybe you need advice or you need to talk. Like if I could be that, if I could be helpful to you in any way, man, I'm like, so proud of you, man. Good work. Don't give up and stop giving money away.
Yeah, I'll get your information. I'll get in contact with
you. Do it. Hit me up. Let's just be in touch, man. I want to get you on my phone and even we're just texting, whatever. But I don't want to keep everyone all day because I want to talk to you. But I definitely want to talk to you.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Good.
Also, I think that's about wrap it up. I appreciate you, John. Pressing on, and I definitely appreciate that you were able to jump in, share a little bit about your journey, your business, and I'll definitely be getting your contact information, and I'll be sharing John's number with you. All right.
Good.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you.